average student on campus is going to know who we are, but knowing that we have an active voice in each of their communities. So I know that another thing that we're looking to do is to improve the office hours of the position so that we're open and available in places where people are going to be passing through a lot. Because even myself, I don't even know where the student body president's office or the Senate office would be. So you want to be somewhere that's approachable so people don't have to go out of their way, but feel like they're able to get their questions answered.
Thank you, Seth and Joe. Matt?
You can take a mule to the water, but you can't make the mule drink the water. The CMU students are here for one thing. They're here to learn, I hope. If we're busy, it doesn't matter how much advertising you have, it doesn't matter what you do. If you have work to do, you're going to do it, and other things are going to be secondary. That's the same for candidates, and that's the same for people, that's the same for constituents. It's hard. I mean, it's one thing to incentivize. I don't know what necessarily to do. People are really busy.
Thank you, Matt. This question is also for all of the candidates. In the past, the Presidential Cabinet and the Student Government Executive Committee and Board of Directors has been extremely underutilized. What plans do you have to utilize these groups? Amy and Brian?
I mean, we plan to meet with these groups. I think that's something that makes it underutilized. Also, I think that we like to think of ourselves as inspiring people, and I think that we can inspire these groups to actually do things. Do you have anything to add, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big focus of our campaign is just making sure students are able to kind of do the projects that they want to be doing. So we really want to get people interested in kind of the board of directors and the cabinet, so that they can more effectively work with us to do the projects that they're already doing.
I mean, I think the biggest thing for me here is I'm not really good at anything except for running meetings. Like, it's my one talent in life, except for everything else I say I'm good at in my campaign. But it's something I've had a lot of experience with. And like in exec, for instance, there are a couple things that I've kind of muddled about I want to finish next year. First one, media screens. We're going to have Collegiate Link. We can do a centralized calendar system through there. We can do something kind of like AB's been doing, except we can have all the campus events on TV screens around. We have money to do it in the student government operating reserve, or excuse me, the media fee reserve. And that's going to be something where we're going to work as a project for exec. Same thing with the activities fee. That's going to be a project for exec. I think it probably needs to be raised based on a lot of sentiments based on sitting on JFC this year, but that's an exec project. There are other exec projects, I mean, I've been sitting on now, stuff with Port Authority. Like I say, I'm putting together a lobbying trip for that, and I hope that does enough to prevent the cuts from coming. But if the cuts are going to come, you bet exec is going to be working together to make sure we got a way to get down to the airport and we got a way to get around town. So that's a big thing for exec. For board of directors, I think it's shifting how it's done. Like I said, my biggest value in running a meeting is discussion. Ask anyone who's on my XCOM this year in Senate how things have sort of changed with that. And we're really big on discussing and building ideas, and that hasn't happened much in board of directors this year. I sit on it. I think we can get a lot of really cool ideas, especially stuff sort of what I'm talking about with the student organization competition for events. That's going to be something that's big to come out of board of directors. And then finally, cabinet. We have a lot duties outlined on our actual platform for every single one of our cabinet members. Additionally, we have a really meaty platform. We haven't covered half of it maybe. But all those things are going to need to go to cabinet. I'm good at motivating people. I'm good at setting timelines. And cabinet, I think, is going to be a really exciting group of people who are coming into student government with the same attitude as me, which is let's change the status quo. Let's make some things happen. And that's why I think our cabinet's going to be a little more exciting.
Thank you, Will and Mila. Brian?
So we want the board of directors meetings to be really meaningful. They're supposed to represent the big organizations on campus, and they don't do that right now. So we want to accurately represent the student body at these meetings. And right now there are funds allocated for collaboration, and we think they weren't utilized this year, and we think that this would be a great opportunity for them. So they're not just going to be a meeting of leaders on campus. We're going to have agendas and initiatives clearly lined out if we're elected by the end of this semester, and appoint new members to the board of directors that represent the various groups on campus. When next year we want to start having these meetings be open, so they're not just going to be on the third floor of the UC somewhere, but they're going to be in a place that you can come to and attend these meetings, and we'll have a portion of the meeting be open to the student body. In terms of our cabinet, we're going to strategically select members of our cabinet that really complement Amanda and I, our strengths, and who will be able to carry out our initiatives and be held accountable.
Thank you, guys. Seth and Joe?
So, like I mentioned before, one of the things that we're doing as far as cabinet is empowerment. So if someone comes to us during our open office hours and says, you know, I want to hold this event, I want to do this initiative, we're going to bring them onto cabinet. So cabinet to us isn't this like fixed group of people that always exists. It's really a dynamic kind of rolling group of people. There are 4 required cabinet positions. We're obviously going to have a lot more, but we really expect the dynamic and the culture of cabinet to change as different people are moving in and out as they fulfill their initiatives. As far as board of directors, in my observations, the board of directors is always underutilized. It's never been utilized to its fullest potential, and I think, along with what Matt said, that has a lot to do with the fact that we're just busy people. But in Joe's experience as a CA, and I'll let him talk about that in a second, Joe has excellent leadership skills in the fact that he can get other people to do what they said they were going to do.
Yeah, and I think the really big key for that is making sure that people have deadlines for projects. I mean, I know when people do homework a lot, like they wait until the day before, but somehow they get it done every time. And I think that's going to be the case. If someone has a project or an idea and they say, all right, I'm going to go work on this, they're going to put it on the back burner when they have other things that come up. But if they have a specific deadline, they're going to have to find a time to really make sure that happens. So making sure that people have deadlines and understand like the repercussions and the impact of what those things do whenever you don't meet the goals that you and expectations you had whenever those things are happening. That'll really encourage to make sure that things are getting done, and it will allow student government to really get an accurate report of what's going on. So that way we can say, here's the goals and agenda that we had at this particular time point. Here's what we said we were going to be completed. Why aren't we at this stage, or how did we manage to be successful at this stage? So I think doing something as simple as that can really be a good fix for that.
Thank you, Seth and Joe. Matt?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Question is, in the past, the Presidential Cabinet and the Student Government Executive Committee and Board of Directors has been extremely underutilized. What plans do you have to utilize these groups?
Well, to be honest, I don't. I would say, though, they're definitely underutilized for a reason. A lot of the time when you're finding people that you like, you're finding your friends, you're finding the people who ran your campaign. It's one thing to run a campaign, it's another thing to run an administration. I think it's important to find board of directors, find people who can really help you try and do stuff. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates. Now we're going to go into specific questions. And because we have so many candidates, I'm just going to keep starting at the end with Amy and Brian, and I'll ask each of you a question, and we'll just keep going like that. Okay. So this is for Amy and Brian. One of your initiatives includes redesigning the student organization recognition process. How would this redesign be an improvement, and how would you work with the Committee of Student Organizations to achieve this?
All right, so right now, COSO is very strict. They think of themselves as kind of the gatekeepers of funding for JFC. And the problem with this is that there's some organizations who don't really need funding, and they just kind of want access to a lot of the other benefits that come with being an official organization. So what we want to do is we want to have kind of a 2-tiered system. One tier would be kind of ineligible for funding, but it would be very easy to get approved for, and you would still get access to Space Quest, you would still have the ability to poster, you would still be able to have access to the activities fair, and all these great benefits and it would be for clubs that don't necessarily need funding, but there's all these great benefits that clubs need. And then there would be the second tier, which would be kind of the normal, strict process. We think this is a good thing because this way COSO doesn't have to worry about kind of this funding process, and it kind of empowers students and makes them more able to complete projects without kind of student government kind of getting in the way.
Thank you. The next question is for Will and Mila. You guys have a lot of initiatives in your platform. Which ones are on your priority list, and how would you ensure that after your term, these initiatives continue to carry on?
I think we both agree it's the PR. Because as soon as you establish sort of a good image, that's going to give flexibility for student government to get feedback and change. The next one after that is the sort of student organization event attendance type thing that kind of culminates with the celebration of the student event that we talked about. The reason for that being it's a loose framework. There's a lot of different things you can do, but the incentives are simple, and the incentives, I think, make sense. We're not trying to tell you you have to go to every event, but we want to make sure that a really good structure is in place so that people are completely informed about things and they feel the right sort of social pressures to go to things, and that as much as we can with sort of working with centralized information, the excuse, I didn't know about that goes away. I mean, we're never going to get rid of the excuse, I didn't have time for that, like that's just CMU. But I think the PR, both on the end of making us know and then making sort of events, when we had a poll on our Facebook page, the most asked for thing besides the Chipotle was better centralized information. By a large margin. So those are the things we prioritize, and sort of town halls, tabling, all that falls under there.
And something else we've been really trying to do is putting dates to our initiatives so that the student body can hold us up to our platform. And obviously we know that based on our Google Calendar, we can't achieve everything that we'd like to. But what we hope to do is to be able to keep the student body informed whether we are achieving or whether we are failing. So you will hear from us regardless if it's positive or negative news.
Hopefully it's positive.
Yeah.
And one other thing to try and make it go in a precedent I'd like to set, and it kind of goes back to the last question, is getting a good cabinet. If we are elected, the first people I'm going to ask to be on my cabinet are the people sitting across here. Because these are the people who care. And these are the people you kind of want to have on your cabinet. And they're the people who have made say they've dedicated a year to this stuff. And I hope they do the same for me.
Thank you, guys. The next question is for Brian and Amanda. Although neither of you have held student government positions, you've been active in other areas around campus. How has this prepared you for a role in student government?
Sure. I definitely think that Amanda and I, our leadership in other areas on campus, will be really important in our new perspective that we bring to the table. I was a part of the TEDx CMU team, and so I know what it takes to fill up this auditorium to maximum capacity on a very tight budget. And through my leadership in my fraternity, I ran a huge PR campaign that rebranded us, and I brought out a record number of people to our recruitment event. I was also booth chair, so I learned how to use power tools. Amanda and I have had a number of leadership positions. I also have been involved with student life through my OC experience, and I'll be an RA. And so I think that we have the leadership experience that it takes to be in this position. And when you really think about what the purpose of student government is, it's to be the voice of the people. And I'm fairly certain that almost everyone on this stage has reached out to someone in the audience here, and that's probably why you're here. Not only have Amanda and I reached out to you guys, but we've reached out to the other 84% that didn't vote last year, and that's one of our greatest strengths. We'll be strategically picking our cabinet and the people that we work with to make sure that they complement our strengths and our weakness of experience. We've been electing the same type of people every year, and if student government really does want to see a change, I think that's the change. Now more than ever is the time for change, and Amanda and I do bring that perspective, that much needed new perspective to the table. Anything to add?
Thank you, guys. This next question is for Seth and Joe. Your platform takes on the much discussed topic of campus dining. How do you plan to expand and improve students' dining experience?
So one of the things, like I already mentioned, was that it's pretty obvious from everyone's Facebook page that people want a Chipotle on campus. I'm not going to be real. It's not going to happen. That being said, there's a lot that we can do as student body president and vice president to ensure that dining needs are met. I've been working with John Mark to improve the catering services we have on campus. Yes, Culinart does have student catering, and we're working to improve that menu to better student needs. In doing so, I've built some really great relationships with Culinart, and I've also learned that a lot of the dining problems we have on campus aren't Culinart's fault.